Yo, she like Monica Lewinsky. What's up, fam? It's another video. FFW. What does that stand for? Fab, flat, and whack. I'm just gonna break down a video, see what I see, so you guys can understand what you're looking for when creating your cinematography, music video, events, whatever the case may be. The system is all across the board. You can bring it to weddings, you can bring it to events, you can bring it to different type of scenario. I'm gonna basically just break down this music video by Saint Jun, Monica Lewinsky, and the baby, and A Boogie with the hoodie. I don't know these rap names, but anyways, let's go. What do we got here? It's directed by Taylor Floor. Let me turn down the volume. No copyright. I only need to see at least 30 seconds. See what I'm getting here. All right, cool. So, it's a very soft look. It's mid key. I wouldn't say high key because again, they're using soft light and they're using light from one direction, and they're also using backlight to edge out all the characters. So they're doing like a kind of a studio setup just to kind of sell the whole vibe that they're shooting a shoot within a shoot studio vibe type of video. Is in focus, and everybody else, and the girl that's actually touching him is in focus, and the girl that's touching her is not in focus, and the person at the end is not in focus. It's kind of like a linear ladder effect. It's cool, but it kind of just draws your eye to him because the other person's out of focus. Now, first and foremost, they have a light coming from up top hitting his hair, so that's why you see that separation between the bodies and the background. They probably have some tubes up there, and they're shooting the light on their, I guess, on my side, it's going to be my right side, probably their left. It's a big soft source. You can kind of see where it's coming from because you can see the reflections from her sunglasses. Now, yeah, it's a pretty soft light. How do I know this? You just see how it's rolling off the skin. You can't see any of the harshness. The only time you see the real harshness is coming from her sunglasses because that's a reflective source. I love how it's hitting the skin. It looks very milky, very creamy. It's nice. When you think about creating soft lights, there's different types of textures and different type of things and materials that you can put in front of your light. Now, your light quality can change based upon how hard you put it through the fabric or how soft it's coming through the fabric. Now, of course, if you're shooting with your lens wide open, what's wide open is like f1.2. Of course, you can get more light in, and your camera lens is going to be a lot more sensitive. So it's kind of like a balancing game. How much light you're putting out on the actual source and how much light is coming into the sensor of the camera. So I try to get to the native place of my ISO on my camera and kind of just manipulate everything on the outside. I don't want to touch the camera settings too much because it can get a little hectic that way. Let's move on. Oh yeah, this is fabulous. Why is this fabulous? We see different textures, we different colors, different shades, different elements in the frame. It's nicely framed. I like the little ladder linear effect. He's up front, and the other person stacks behind her, and the other stacks behind them, and it stacks behind that other person. You look for these different interesting parts that what they're really doing to the frame, and you see the little backlight in the back of his neck. That just goes to show you there's a light over top, and this is what gains them that separation from the background. Let's move forward. Let me just check here, something interesting. All right, let me just find it in focus. All right, bet. So what would I call this? This is fab. This is not a flat shot. He's really sticking out of that white backdrop. It's great that he's dark skinned, so it helps him really well. And the chains on his neck help out. again, they're still have an edge light behind him, and they're probably well, they're probably not shooting a light on the backdrop because it's like this little creamy color, but the exposure is really hitting his skin more than it's hitting the backdrop. So when you're shooting things like this, you don't want too much spillover on the actual source to hit the backdrop, because then it can just basically become overexposed, because white just illuminates ridiculously. Like if you guys were to false color this frame right now, there is a hot spot right behind my head. So, but ultimately, this is great. Light's coming from one side of his face. It looks like it's coming from my right, his left, maybe. I'm not sure. You know, I'm kind of crazy when it comes to these things. He actually has some type of reflective source on the opposite side, because you can see how it's well exposed on his left side of his face. You can tell that the light's kind of hitting all across his face. We don't see any hiccups. And you see on the darker side, there's little sections of highlights and little sections of darkness. So guys, it goes to show you the light on the opposite side is not as intense. The light on the left side is not as intense as the light on the right side. It's probably a reflector of some sort bouncing back the initial light just to get a little bit of color on the darker side of his frame. Now I love how they do it. They kind of split it straight down the middle to give you that contrasting effect in his face. Light, dark. Again, it's always light, dark, light, dark. You can even see it in his frame. White backdrop, dark skin. Lighter part of his skin, darker side of the skin to white backdrop. We're creating that zebra effect. We're saying black, white, black, white, black, white as we proceed. Let me get something harder. Yeah, see, now kind of in this frame now, you see that top light, that's what they're using all across the board. Now, as he moves forward towards us, he gets away from the top light, which is why you see there's more contrast coming onto his opposite side of his face where the key light is coming, because he's moving away from the top light. He's moving away from the edge light. But edge light's still there because you can still see it on the frame of the collar of the jacket, but it's not as profound. It's not hitting his face as much. So this is why it's darker. This is stylistically, they did this on purpose. And I love the girl in the background. It adds a different element, and the light that you see on the roof adds a cool element too. This is fantabulous. Fab. Let's keep going. I want to see if I can find something I don't like per se. Let's do this one. So this is it's a nice shot. They just copied the frame just to make some cool effect. More or less, this is well exposed, but you can see a little bit of you can tell that the exposure is a little higher because there's just like this light frost over it. Like his skin is not as prominent, it's not as milky as it used to be, because when you start to shoot wide frames with full bodies, like from head to toe, and you see like the full establishment, it's so much harder to light that way because you're just covering so much real estate. So light is just basically spreading all across. But they still have the light on one side of the subject, still creating the framework. And when you're creating, so if I were to come in closer, I'd probably go on the darker side rather than shooting him up front. But the fact that you can shoot him up front, because you can tell both sides of the face, so you can make the contrast difference between what's light and what's dark, and that's what makes framing beautiful. So fantabulous, more or less. Let's move forward. It's cool. We did that already. We did that. Keep moving forward. Something difficult. All right, so see this. This would be a nightmare for a rookie, to be honest with you. First and foremost, it's a nice shot, fabulous. But the elements and the textures and so much things going on. first and foremost, you're gonna have to balance all these lights, because if one thing is too bright, it's gonna hit the sensor way too hard, which is gonna affect the color on everything else. So probably most of these are dimmed through their lowest level, so it's not really affecting. So at this point, they're using everything in this shot as practicals. Practical here, practical there, practical, practical, practical. We see the little tubes on the floor and a little tube in here. Shout out to Xterra all day. And there's a huge source on the right side of the frame as they're shooting this. There's a huge short even shooting into this, because you can see it by the side of her arm because her back is towards the light. So yeah, man, these are cool little things. Again, full shots, wide shots are harder to control and get that contrast. But since they have this control section and these black things on the side, which is negative field, it compresses, it contains so much more leakage. So the white walls are not bouncing everything around. So when you have to shoot wide, try to create like a shelter. Try to create negative field. Put some black fabric up so it can suck in some of that light, so it is not basically leaking all over the place. This is beautiful stuff, man. Good job. Let's see something interesting. This is a cool shot. I'm be honest with you. This is fantabulous, by the way. It's a good shot, great color, like the reflections, like the person in the background. I think this is an accident. I love accidents on set. I mean, I'm gonna give my man credit. He probably thought about this, but yeah, this is great. Putting it at the right spot that you just don't see the reflection that's pointing at where the camera's at and everything, all the hecticness that's happening in front of her. This is a cool shot, man. I love all the interest here, all the glares and all the flares. I can kind of see stuff in the front, but I'm paying attention to it now because my brain wants to figure it out. You have this girl in the background. You see how they're putting the edge of this little Cubics box right in front of us just to create something in the foreground. Great idea. The light, how it's echoing the reflection, which is beautiful stuff. I love it. I love it. I love it. Again, same concept, a little different. The light is probably more so in front of her because we're not seeing that much illumination on this side, but her eyes are kind of well exposed. It might be a smaller light. I'm not sure, but there's definitely a light over top because I can tell by on her backside it's a little bit more illuminated, and her face is getting more reflective light from the floor and a little bit from the exterior, but not much to really hit her face. There's some source in the front of her, but it's really, really well. It's really dialed in because I'm not seeing the leakage of the light. It's not too intense. It's really good work right here. As we move forward, that's basically it. I really don't have anything else to say. Shooting water is pretty cool. This is actually pretty. Shooting water is pretty cool. Always shoot from the back of the water so you can see it. Water makes beautiful reflections. So if you're ever gonna do like some type of water scene, yeah, it's great reflection, especially on pools. I've seen it a lot in movies. Backlight it. Put the light in the back and play around with it, and then it just kind of makes interesting reflections and glares here and there. Water's cool. All right, until next time, there'll be next time. See you next time. Again, I'm doing these videos to help somebody somewhere, somehow, so she can figure out how to light cinematography from the framework and just basically breaking it down in a way that you can understand how we see it, so you have a better understanding of how to go about it. All right, holla back. Please subscribe. Please press the like button. The bell is a little bit too loud, but if you like to, go ahead. All right, y'all. Deuces.